Josef Fares did it again. So a little bit ago, Rob and I played A Way Out. I made a video on it, but it's not necessary to watch unless you want to, but the two games do share some links together. A Way Out is great, but highly centered on story over gameplay, while He's Light's new game, It Takes Two, is quite the opposite. Still exclusively co-op, It Takes Two is an action platformer with a ton of variety on PC, Xbox One and Series X, and PS4 and PS5. And once again has friendpass, meaning only one player needs to actually own the game to play through its entirety in co-op. The premise is an interesting one that games don't tackle much. Each player takes control of either Cody or May, a married couple planning on divorcing as they've slowly drifted apart over time. Their young daughter is understandably upset and asks Dr. Hakim's Book of Love for help to repair her parents' relationship, causing the book to turn into Antonio Banderas.
Love heals all. Adios!
By Antonio Banderas, who himself turns the fighting couple into their daughter's toys to send them on a journey of romance. I'm not going to worry about spoilers that much, the story is very predictable. I'm sure just from that 3 sentences you can tell exactly what will happen. That said, it's decently well told. I think the voice actors are both very good. The interactions between the two are cute, it's just the story itself isn't anything special. The game has a very solid foundation to start its gameplay on. Both characters have identical base movesets, which are great as is. On top of the expected jump and the almost always present double jump in 3D platformers, the pair have a dash to increase ground movement speed that can also be used in the air as an air dash, which gives extended distance to jumps and extra correction. Then a few extra actions that are more context sensitive, including wall jumps, interacting with objects like switches, and ground pounding, which is basically only used to smash a few objects early on in the game. The game also benefits a ton from its pace of movement. Momentum carries into both jumps, it's generally fast-paced, and everything feels fluid, fast, and responsive. Unlike A Way Out, the gameplay system is good enough that it could stand as a single-player game on its own pretty fucking well, but it doesn't even have to do that. The co-op gameplay comes together really well because every level in the game introduces a new item for each character. Both characters get a different one in most cases, which have different uses, that are distinct from each other but also complementary. The individual items play off each other for puzzle solving. For example, the hammerheads can shatter glass and activate buttons, while the nail can pin things down and hit targets from a distance. But the nails also let the player with the hammerheads swing from them after the player with the nails has thrown them into a wall to get around gaps. Each stage constantly tosses new ideas and things at the wall right as the previous one runs out of tricks, which keeps things constantly fresh. There's also minigames scattered through basically every level, which vary in quality but range from a full game of chess to musical chairs to a long jump. It's a genuinely fun game to mess around in basically, and its greatest strength is its refusal to stay the same. Every 10 minutes, even in the same level, there's something new being thrown at the game. It's never afraid to try something weird or take a risk, and it never plays it safe. It's a breakneck torrent of usually good ideas. The game is very beginner friendly too. Death is an incredibly minor setback, costing maybe 10 seconds of progress, which keeps the pace up. This is only changed up for the surprisingly great bosses, given the track record of platformers and bosses, where respawning requires button mashing and both players dying restarts a portion of the fight. The game looks very nice too, especially it's more of an art direction thing than an actual graphics thing, but the graphics have had a definite polish applied to them from A Way Out. It's pretty obvious that the game had a lot more budget put behind it, and the character designs are really great as well on everything but the actual humans, who are a bit zombie-like. There's only a couple short cutscenes with the humans in them, so it's not that distracting. May looks especially good as a doll with little textures on her yarn. The book as well, who we kept referring to as Antonio Banderas. He was mocapped by Josef Fares himself, and he's really carried by his super goofy facial animations. The music is a step up from Way Out as well. Each level has its own little theme, and they can be exciting or relaxing. My favorite in the game is the music that plays on the Christmas stage. The game's highest high point is definitely its environments. The developers went absolutely nuts, putting the characters in all sorts of beautiful spots. Under the trees full of bioluminescent fish and plants, a kingdom made of toys, which goes all over the place in design, and the entire last chapter, which is just visually absolutely stunning. The visual variety often reflects the tone really well too, setting the pace of the scene. In the open Christmas area, everything is still and mellow, coming to life as the bells are rung to become more and more bustling and bright. It also has kind of a strong Toy Story vibe, which is, you explore regular stuff that's been made much bigger than yourself, or I guess relatively bigger than yourself, because you've become smaller, but it's really enjoyable to like jump around things that are normal size to us that are gigantic. I don't know how to put that into words. It's fun to explore. That's the point. So basically, like, play it. It's great. Get a friend. Split the cost. Play it. You'll enjoy it. Oh, another funny thing I forgot to mention. The game runs generally very well, but every time Antonio Banderas shows up on the screen, he lags the game for like 3 seconds because he just shoots out a bunch of pink particle effects. It's really fucking funny.
Are you really ready to talk to Rose?
Why not? She's our daughter.
Power of the frame rate dropping book.
Fighting each other?
I chose May, Rob chose Cody, and as I said before, this does have some gameplay consequences, as each will have a unique role and ability in each level. The first part of the shed is gimmick-free, obviously, it's just a space to teach basic gameplay before piling stuff on top, including the air dash and less common stuff like wall clinging without wall jumping on moving platforms to get around, as well as minor interactable stuff like a rolling bucket to line up as a platform. Cooperative stuff is very light at this point, but comes in a little more with the levels gimmick, which isn't a character gimmick, but more just like an individual level thing, which are these long vacuum tubes, which at first act like pipes in Mario, just being a simple point A to point B, but can eventually be aimed by one player to redirect the other character's launch, on top of other co-op sections like completing a circuit using their bodies. The first boss, the vacuum cleaner, reuses the vacuum gimmick. The big vacuum guy shoots out mines that one partner sucks up and the other aims and shoots back at him. And as he loses health, the vacuum begins mixing in other attacks like shockwaves to hop over. The bosses are all surprisingly fun. They're really well designed, there's a lot going on. They generally incorporate the level gimmicks very well. They're better bosses than most platformers have. Look at like Mario 64's boss. I guess that's an unfair comparison, but still. Following this first boss, the two get their first level specific items and the game gets good really fast. At first the items seem pretty limited, ones I've detailed earlier. May gets the hammer, Cody gets the nails. The hammer can smash stuff and swing off the nails, plus revives the best gameplay from A Way Out.
They brought back the best mechanic.
They did.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna be
Alright, have fun with the level.
but I'm in charge of the name.
Alright, dude, I'll see you.
Just be careful.
The nails can hit distant targets, prevent stuff from moving, including May for griefing, which is funny. I wish there was more of the unique items that allowed griefing, because it's funny. And as the level goes on, Cody goes from having just one nail to 3, which gives him a little more to do. The two are introduced distinctly separately, but the game does a fantastic job of escalating and intertwining them, going from one nail to swing off or pinning down stuff from main across to using 3 and cycling through them to control platforms to jump on and wall jump off of. The game is constantly pulling new tricks at a breakneck speed, and right when it runs out, the next boss hops up. The toolbox, like the game itself, refuses to stop throwing in new stuff. At first it just rains nails on the players, but eventually starts swinging its arms around and then cutting and drilling into the table to shrink the amount of space the players have to work with before repeating the cycle. And at the same time, each character has to use their individual item to create a path for the other to attack the boss's weak points. Honestly, fucking masterful game design to introduce and teach and discard things in such a clean and efficient way to keep the game so fucking fresh. Before actually reaching the next area, the two get a short rail grinding tutorial on wires inside the house, which basically works like Sonic Adventure 2, but obviously snappier than that. If it worked just like Sonic Adventure 2, I'd be very disappointed. It has some more modern things, like a quick rail switch button on the bumpers. It comes up pretty frequently in the game. Most of the time that it comes up, it's just like dodging obstacles while grinding, basically what you'd expect. I wish there was like a level dedicated more to it. Maybe that's just the Sonic weirdo in me. From the window of the shed, Cody and May see their daughter in the house and think that they need to get her to cry so that they can use her tears to reverse the spell on them. But to get there, they have a whole yard to cross and the outdoors is very dangerous. To cross the top of the tree, the two get grappling vines that serve as the only permanent upgrade in the game, which allows them to grab a hook or something similar from which they can swing around, jump, whatever. Simple, satisfying movement. It's very fun to use, comes up very often, just like a basic way to get around for the rest of the game. The top of the tree has a door, and when they knock on it, they're taken in by squirrels who are at war with wasps. And as such, the squirrels decide that in order to fulfill their request of taking them into the house, they'll need to take some weapons and deal with the wasps. Cody gets a sap gun. The sap, it shoots, coats enemies and objects, weighing them down either to lower or move stuff or set up enemies for May's weapon. A bottle rocket launcher that can be used to create thrust to move stuff or ignite sap to destroy enemies and obstacles, requiring big coordination since there's a ton of enemies to get past. These two don't make for great puzzle solving. This chapter is much more focused on action, although there is some cool stuff that's done with weighing stuff down to lower it and then blowing it up to get it to raise again, stuff like that. But the third person shooting is pretty decent decent as well, and there's some real creative fights. The shield wasp needs to be gunked up and hit from behind, while also unlocking a huge door by managing sap on a fan at the same time as he's being dealt with. Mortar wasp is skippable. We didn't fight it. We also didn't do the skip properly. It's possible to actually solve the puzzle correctly instead of making a weird buggy jump, but the boat section has Cody steer with the sap gun while May shoots out swarms of explosive maggots. There's some beautiful platforming on neon jellyfish and a ghostly catfish that the player needs to balance on, kind of like the sandbird from Mario Sunshine. There's a lot of things that remind me of other things in this game, but they're just pulled off really well. The giant beetle boss needs to be flipped by blowing up sap that Cody lays underneath it, and then the two befriend it. And there's a big action segment where Cody steers the beetle and May shoots the enemies before finally reaching the boss.
What you say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did. What you say?
And all this craziness finally hits, breaking at the boss, a giant mechanical wasp that controls swarms of small wasps, taking place mostly on rails, where Cody needs to coat the boss and her wasps in sap so that May can blow them up. It's just wild, non-stop action the whole chapter through. After everything, the game tosses in a little twist as the squirrels betray the couple and try to kill them, and the two steal a plane. Cody steers it, and May guns down the various enemies and obstacles, and it's a great little ending as the two finally land in the house. Still believing their daughter's tears are the key, the two make their way to their daughter's bedroom through a fucking ton of stuff. Tons, endless variety. The pillow fort is a pretty short and simple section, but tucked away in one of its corners is tiny toy versions of the protagonists of A Way Out who have a goofy little conversation.
Check these out.
Oh, it's a way out!
Wait, where?
Hey, Vincent, you think you're gonna get away with what you did to me? Come on, Leo. You're still pissed about that? Just drop it already. Are you crazy? I'll never drop it. You just wait and see. Oh, yeah. What are you gonna do? You're gonna kick your ass. You ain't doing shit. You're a doll, Leo. God damn it! And as smart as always, I see.
A way out.
That's
We
amazing.
found a way out.
That's so good.
I can't believe we found a way out.
Genuinely did not know that was
Does
this
this one
game.
have purple?
Rob and I understandably freaked out. At the end of the fort, there's a neat little minigame that's supposed to be hacking, but the daughter's doll Moon Baboon counter-hacks them and warps them up to a spaceship where they each get a new ability, ones that the developers seemed very fond of given how much material they made for them. Cody can grow or shrink, which also increases and decreases his weight, while May gets the ability to run on special floors that allow her to run along walls and the ceilings. The stage just throws out 6 individual challenge rooms that make great use of these two powers, whether it's 2D platforming segments where one is on the ceiling and one is on the floor and the two clear paths for each other. Cody throwing planets around to get May higher so she can push out drawers from behind sideways, push them through to make a path for him. Cody pushing a ball May needs to balance on. May on a wall lifting up tiny Cody, and on, ground pounding the floor of a planet to raise a dome on the other side, like launch it into the air so that May, who's on the bottom of the planet, can run underneath it is just proof that Mario Galaxy needed some kind of co-op mode. Oh, what's that in the sky?
Happy balls.
Okay, can you swear here? Okay. Oscar, you know? Oscar! You know, I'll tell you. I like this. Look, here's the
Fuck
thing.
the Oscars.
Put it in. Holy shit.
Fuck the Oscars.
Holy
We
things.
found a way out and we found fuck the Oscars.
The fucking Mad Lad did it. They went wild making these rooms. Moon Baboon is also a fantastic boss. He uses his UFO to spam lasers at one character, who needs to aim it at a fuse to disable his ship so that tiny Cody can sneak in. The big climax of the fight is getting Cody all the way into the ship and doing a maze gauntlet on the inside while May's outside dodging an aggressive barrage of lasers. And it's exciting and fast-paced, and each character has a little bit something different to do, and ugh. After defeating Moon Baboon, the two get to the equally wild toy box. Like weird co-op puzzles, you'll love this section. One player rides a rail while calling out buttons for the other player to hit to remove obstacles. There's a draw by numbers where one character controls the horizontal movement, the other controls the vertical. One of those little marble mazes that controls in the same way, and tons more. It's just wild how much they throw at the game, and there's this great big platforming section where each character gets a fidget spinner, which is, I don't know, is that cringe or Is that cool now? Is it like ironically funny? I thought it was funny. They use like little hovering jump extenders, so use it in the air to slow your descent, get extra horizontal distance, and they're used in like a gigantic bouncy castle section. It's very fun. And after that, they're just thrown into a kaleidoscope and the visuals go completely nuts, and then they get on a train that takes them to various spots that'll have little unique things. The Dino Stop has one character control a Brontosaurus that can move platforms around or hold them in place, while the other guy has a little spiky tail dude that can flip platforms. The pirate section is Assassin's Creed 4, but each player controls a paddle bolt wheel and they need to cooperate to steer the thing while blasting away at opponents, including a giant squid boss. Immediately after, they go to a carnival where they have to make Rube Goldberg machines to cross a ball all the way across the room to get to a giant clown to pop it, and it's breakneck and it all works. In the castle, the two prepare to assassinate the Queen Elephant, thinking it'll make their daughter cry, but as soon as they get there, the book sells them out and they're tossed in the dungeon where they get a new set of abilities. Cody becomes a wizard and he gets Ice Blast that he can use to freeze lava to make platforms and fight enemies. And he can also teleport through gates, while May gets a flaming sword and can dash over big gaps. And the game becomes a top-down Diablo clone for a little bit, one that's like actually pretty decent. Obviously there's no like leveling or loot, but it has the gameplay down perfectly. It's even got the damage numbers on screen. It's pure insanity, and it has like its own unique boss fight against living chess pieces that all use chess-themed attacks. When the king and queen summon a rook, it'll shoot fire in a plus shape, because that's their movement pattern, and so on. It's just like, it's amazing how a game that's so completely unfocused is still so coherent and fun all the way through. The scene where the two kill the queen is amazing. I think our reactions to it probably say better than me actually talking about it, so I'll just show a little clip here.
No.
Oh my god, no. I'm so sorry.
Holy
Maybe
shit.
we're the true monsters. Oh no. Don't touch that pin. Don't touch that pin. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Needless to say, making their child cry doesn't work, so Antonio Banderas says fuck it, time for couples therapy in 4 steps. Inside the Cuckoo Clock, there's a huge and fairly open city full of weird mini-games, including the Hell Tower, which is the game's toughest platforming section, which just gives an achievement like most of these things do. The goal is to guide 2 statues. Each character of course gets another power here too. Cody can rewind times on certain objects to move them, restore them and break them, while May can create a point to warp herself to for fast movement. These two also go great together. Cody can position things for May to set up teleports, and it's just fun to fuck around with. Inside the clock towers, the puzzles intensify with some amazing set pieces like the huge inner spiral thing and the big guardian guy. To fight the mechanical bull, May needs to bait it and teleport at the last second, while Cody holds down a button to crash it into a statue and break it. And that's not even the end. The clock tower starts attacking the duo and they have to dodge these gigantic swinging arms, and the whole thing fucking explodes. Cody uses his time powers to help May jump across splintering woods, and it's just so good. It's just constant momentum all the way through. It's very exciting to play, very exciting to talk about as well. Very enjoyable and just like constantly new. Inside the snow globe, Cody and May relive a nice vacation. Each also receives half a magnet. Positive can push positive and pull negative objects from or towards the player respectively, or push the player from stationary positives to launch themselves in the air, or towards stationary negatives to cross gaps, and vice versa for the negative. This seems pretty basic, and it is, but this chapter is mostly about being comfy. Everything's real slow, it's very Christmassy, relaxing bells and chimes for music, up until like the ending escape scene. Eventually they also get upgraded to allow the two to draw themselves together, which adds some neat depth. There's a couple times where not only do they have to like just use each other's poles to jump to each other, but both have to use it at the same time to meet in the middle. The majority of the snow globe takes place in a comfy small town where the two ring 3 bells to wake the whole town up. There's no rush, it's chill, it's beautifully Christmassy and soft and relaxing, and every time they ring a bell the town lights up more and the little citizens or all little snow people start bustling around. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like a video game have a better like Christmas section. The competition isn't exactly rough, but it's like super cool. Finishing that, there's an underwater section that's not as bad as you'd expect. The underwater movement is fast-paced and the controls aren't that weird, although this section did have a lot of slowdown for me. Pretty much the only thing that's like noteworthy in the section though is screwing in the bolts underwater while dodging the anglerfish, which is like a really weird thing to get used to and kind of funny. Also, you can participate in ice skating races, which are very fun. In the garden, May gets a scythe she can use to slash enemies, as well as a water gun she can use to clean up goop or revive soil, while Cody becomes a plant man and can turn into various plants by jumping into the soil May revives. Dandelions can blow through the wind as a jump extender, flowers can stretch and make leaves that serve as platforms for May, the cacti just becomes a minigun, which is used to gun down enemies in some sections. This is another very action-focused chapter, there's tons of enemies to cut down. There's a lot of pretty colors, and giant flowers are just kind of like a very fun thing to explore. Both characters get on spiders for a bit, and the spiders can wander on walls, and they're very fucking cute. The highlight of the chapter is the stealth section where Cody becomes grass and needs to help May walk quietly past a bunch of sleeping moles without stepping on like shells to wake him up. After that, frogs become a vehicle for a bit. They don't control particularly well, but you know, the idea of insects use frogs as taxis is funny, so. Finally, the boss is Joy, a giant flower that spawns vines that spray poison. May needs to clean the goo so that Cody, who gets stuck as a tomato, potato, or lime, can smash up the vines. Then Joy starts smashing around before Cody can get into her head, possess her, and open her up for some attacks. It's fast-paced and surprisingly tough, and just like everything in the game, it's great. The final stage is the attic, which has the best visuals in the game, and it also has stock cars because It Takes Two is Yakuza. May once had a passion for singing, the world is musical themed, many various musical themes. There's a more realistic band stage to start with tons of musical instruments, and when they run across they all play music, and sliding on the guitar strings plays like the scale, and each individual key plays a note, and the drums all have unique noises. May gets the ability to sing, which can pacify enemies or shoot bursts to charge microphones and shatter glass, while Cody gets a symbol he can toss around to hit targets. It's like Captain America's shield. The best part of everything in this stage is visual. Inside of a jukebox running on its spinning records, which is very cool. Giant snakes made of microphones. There's a short little portion where May goes inside of a visualizer. There's a little interactive drum machine that plays visualizers on the walls. They go to heaven itself for a little bit and get jetpacks and do some dogfights in these big heavenly domes. At some point they just transition into being on Rainbow Road and ride down Rainbow Road and Neon Disco Rave, and it's like, it's also fucking cool. It's very good looking, great puzzles, very good end to the game. So that's kind of just like an introduction. I got excited about talking about things and got a little carried away, but yeah, I didn't want to like talk about everything because there's a lot of just fun stuff. The ending is pretty predictable, I won't spoil it. The game is great, it's unique, creative, constantly reinventing itself, always fresh. Great core gameplay. It's just like an amazing flurry of ideas that works perfectly. The co-op stuff is great, asymmetrical co-op the whole time that gives each player something different to do. You could probably go through it a second time and play as the other character and have an experience that's just as fresh because they're so distinct from each other. The visual design and variety in locations is great, it's just fucking good. My only minor complaint is that the story is pretty generic, but the interactions from the characters are decent enough. It's hard to complain about much really. I always had a blast seeing what would come up next. There's always something new. As much as I loved A Way Out, It Takes Two is a much stronger game I think, especially in the gameplay department. It's an easy recommend. Find a friend, play through it. I don't have a lot more to say. I tried not to ruin everything. Go have fun. Anyway, this is a small interim video. Been plugging away at the Pokemon video. It's gonna be a while. The video is gonna be very long when I do get to it. At some point I'll probably do a short Game Gear racing game because Pokemon is just, it's long. Thanks for watching, subscribe, other stuff, you know, etc. Misk. Thank you. Bye.